grab my headphones.
Go right ahead.
I'm very important on the side.
And if you would just take a moment and we'll do
My children are emergency alert.
no, go ahead and grab your...
Oh, wait a second.
And while you're doing that, we are at 10-4, Justice. Should be the third, fourth page.
Councilman Castillo.
Here.
Councilman Fazio.
Present.
Councilman O'Flaherty.
Present.
And Supervisor DePew.
Present. And just to be duly noted,
Councilman Hopkinson is absent.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we will turn right to 1110-4, Justice. It's like the fourth page or so.
Yep.
And this is going to be the .1 personnel. Okay, so under the .1 personnel, the two town justices, and it is here budgeted for 2024 at $46,000, and that would be $23,000 each. That's a salary position. The proposed budget request was $47,000 even, and we are doing this based on 3%. That 3% actually brings that up to, do the math on that, because I believe it's going to be a little bit different. So, okay, I have 47,380.
And last year, Dean, if I may, we kept it just as a round number to make it simplified, and we did the same thing, and there was the same concerns. If it wasn't the 3%, and I'm not going to speak for Anna Maria if she agrees, I'm good with just taking 500 straight across the board. It's less than 3%. Anna Maria, I don't know how you feel.
Absolutely concur with that position, especially given the expenses that the town is facing as a whole. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Understood and greatly appreciated. I think you've actually done that in the past, Judge Mansfield said graciously. The only issue that I do see with that is the parity down the road. So since it is an elected position, if we were to short that position, then we would be in a position possibly 4 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 31 years, whatever that number is, that we would be basically deficient behind the times. So that being said, we were using 3% as a number across the board on that, and although I appreciate it, I'll ask the other members of the board. I just doing the math at that 3% was 47,380. So, what's your feelings, folks?
If they want to stay at the 500, I'm not going to force them to take the 3%.
No, understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
I think that's very noble, and they understand and acknowledge what we're up against, trying to make this all work. So I think that's extremely noble and appreciated.
Understood.
Well,
Castillo.
when I was with the zoning and they were raising 2%, 3%, even though I wasn't taking any kind of money, they kept on raising it because there was somebody else coming in and will be up to that point.
Understood.
All right, and that's what you were saying before.
Well, but keep in mind, that being said,
Yeah.
we're still going to tax the folks. So even if, just let's use
Yeah, you're
another, even if somebody agrees at 2% and across the board we've done 3%, even though they're not taking that 1%, that's still that additional 1%
Okay.
will be collected.
So you want to take 5 instead of 7?
Well, I don't know what the number actually comes out to be, but it's a little bit less. So, but you in the past, you just said that you've done the same thing in the past.
Yes, I did the same thing, so I understand. And
All right.
it's
So,
really nice
Mr.
of you
Fazio?
But
guys to
also
do it.
down the road on what Dean said before, I mean, they're going to retire sometime. Anna Marie, in another 27 years or so, if she keeps foregoing a raise and we have to replace her, then we're going to have to find that money somewhere else. So I would almost feel comfortable going up a little bit extra and having it there and giving it to them.
I'm fine either way,
So,
if they want.
Well, used to, do you want to keep it at 5?
no, but
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you feel?
what do you feel?
500 is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, that being said, we said our piece. I will entertain a motion. Somebody would like to make a motion?
Motion to give them the $500 raise.
Okay, so for the two town justices, we're going to keep it as this. 2024 budget was $46,000. That was for the complete
Right.
budget in the 24 year. That would be $23,000 each, and the proposed increase is $23,500. We have a motion on the floor with a second, and that would increase the final proposed budget to $47,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, so let's put that in the books. Next, we have the two court clerks. Hours worked, 80 hours. Current hourly rate is $19.17 an hour. Proposed hours is 80. Proposed hourly rate is $22.17, and this would be a $3 increase, and that would bring that budget up approximately $12,480. You have an increase in salary for those two employees. What's your opinions, feelings, ideas? Or let me just say this in all respect. You folks tell us what our position there is.
Well, we know that, the clerks have an awesome responsibility in terms of the records that they are required to maintain and report. And they also, in terms of the salary for this position and the essentially the pressures that are upon them and their families that are generated by inflation are the same, as every other family is facing in town. And I believe that, our position was that it was overdue, for them to be in a position where they have more equity, even with other local courts, in terms of the clerk's salary. So I think this is a position where, we both feel very strongly that, our clerks definitely deserve this increase.
I'd like to add that we've done some research for neighboring towns and also courts which have the same variation of, I shouldn't say variation, but the same similar caseloads as Plattekill does. So I'd just like to announce what those clerks are making. Our clerks are making $19.17, and I'll let it be known that the 5 towns or 4 other towns that we checked into all are above that. Gardner's at 20. Gardner is at $24.88 an hour. New Paltz has a split, meaning they have $30 an hour for a criminal court clerk, and they pay $22 an hour for a vehicle and traffic clerk. Both of our clerks do both jobs.
That was 22, you said?
For a vehicle and traffic in New Paltz clerk. Town of Ulster is $23.06. Town of Lloyd, they have 2 clerks, $25.51 and $23. And with the advent of cat court, the clerks that are paid to sit cat court are paid $35 an hour, but they do not receive any mileage reimbursement. So our clerks are the lowest paid out of the towns that are comparable to us, as well as neighboring towns that are next to us. And I feel very strongly with the amount of work that the 2 ladies do day in and day out. Their caseloads are only getting bigger. It's understood. I'm being told that they'll be taking on another responsibility as far as processing parking tickets now. That I understand that will be becoming part of. I think town police is going to be issuing those, so that would be something that revenue would be completed directly to the town only. They have to install program within a program that we currently have, and that would create additional caseload for them also. And with that being said, since COVID's been over, all of our numbers have been completely have gone up. And I'm not saying just by a little bit as far as traffic or criminal. Both caseloads are up roughly 8% from last year to this year. And I don't see how it's going to be, how that will be minimized in the near future based on what we're seeing coming in on a day-to-day basis, both through CAP and also through our sitting the bench each week that we're here.
So let me ask you this, because I did do the same thing with the numbers. I looked at the neighboring towns and started looking at their budgets and their revenue lines, and we are, although it appears to be the same, we are not the same. A lot of those budgets are also based on income that those towns have through their water and sewer districts, through their already parking enforcement. Parking enforcement that our chief has proposed is basically a ticket that's generated by a police officer that would be left on the vehicle, motor vehicle, or handed to the individual, and then they would pay the fine unless they wanted to litigate it, and then they would do whatever they had to do to litigate it. So that increase, obviously there will be an increase. You cannot balance a budget off of the legal system per se, although you do recognize the revenue stream, obviously. And we really don't know what that looks like. So what we have been doing across the board is doing 3%. We've been utilizing 3%. And I understand the situations that everybody is in. My family's in the same situation, so I do respect that. I never want to balance a budget on the backs of the employees, and I never want to not give them the tools, and that to me is part of the tools to do the job appropriately. But in looking at, again, the increase of just that $3 would bring that increase up an additional $12,800, and that's pretty big. What do you think, John?
Well, if people look at the percentage, I mean, rough math, I may be off a little, but it looks like it's 16% raise, which when people look at that, they're going to be like,
Yeah, that is quite
a little on the steep side.
Yeah.
I guess when was the last time, I kind of know the answer, but when was the last time this was adjusted last year, the 1917?
It was a raise last year.
To
and I believe-
2.75 last year.
But
Was it
nothing.
275 or
With
250?
2.50.
275.
And then prior to that, was there any, like,
I think what it was 2.75, and I think,
I see.
It was 2. I had last year's budget.
yes, in the year before it was 2.5, so just 2.50.
Nothing.
I can go pull out 23s. I don't.
But I think that's what it was. I think it went 225, 250, 275.
Right. So nothing, given the in light of inflation, I would say, in the last kind of 4.5 years has been pretty robust. So I think something is probably due, but 15 is, I agree with you, Mr. Fazio, is going to be tough to swallow and sell. However, I do think there's something there more than 3%. That I do think.
You have anything?
Well, we had to discuss these raises.
Yeah, well, in looking at this, we looked at a bunch of different options.
Yeah, the other option.
And at the 3%, again, 3% is, to me that's very good, but I do think in this economy and everything, I do think that we have to realistically look at all of these budgets, and we may have to look back, we may not. I don't know, we'll collectively talk, but I'd be willing to go to 6%.
And that is opening up the lines on the other budgets.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah,
We're talking about this.
Right now, we're just
No
covering their
problem.
budget.
This one, yeah, I can see that, but we can't go any higher than that. I feel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Say something.
I wanted to have the opportunity, to speak just to the issue of something that I experienced when, the clerk that had been my clerk for, I think, a little bit over 20 years had left, right? and how difficult it was to be able to hire another clerk.
Understood.
And I certainly, can appreciate that that situation. That in the event that we would need to hire another clerk, we would have to, find somebody who would be willing to accept, the salary for this position. And I think that that has to be part of the consideration. I think it's very important because I feel grateful that the clerks are willing to work as hard as they do at the rate that they are paid, given all of the responsibilities that they have, and the overall administration of the court does deal with different types of cases and caseloads, but I think under a very broad understanding, we're talking about making sure that equal protection and due process are there for people. And I know that I've established an excellent working relationship with my clerk, and that we have a methodology that's in place, and I know the value of the work that she does, working with her directly, that the value of the work that she does is definitely reflected more than the $3 per hour. And I'm sure that Judge Ashdown could speak with respect to his clerk as well. And so for that reason, I want you to know that we deliberated long, and we certainly appreciated the amount of money that and the percentage of the increase as well. So none of those were lost upon us, and we really come after careful contemplation with respect to all those matters.
And we spent quite a bit of time discussing that, and where we felt that, number one, what would be a fair hourly rate for both ladies for what they do. And I think, to be fair across the board,
someone hit a panic button. Everyone all good?
Where's the?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we're not.
Sarah, under you?
no, it's on.
No, it is under Sarah.
It is under Sarah.
We're sorry.
It's all
Her
right.
chair hit it. Her chair hit it.
All good.
And Bobby just texted me, and I'm wondering. I'm like, sorry, I'm in a budget meeting. I should have answered when he called.
All good.
My apologies.
All good.
That was just a test. See what you do.
Great
What is this?
timing.
And you know what? You
Meeting's canceled.
pass.
All right, let's go.
Thanks,
Thanks, sir.
Sorry, Sarah. So just move
That was
over just
a
a little
well-timed
bit.
panic button. Thank you.
Yes.
Knock it off.
All right, so
All right, back to reality. All right. So,
If I could just, I was almost finished with that. Based on, a fair rate, but also fair across the board for other town employees, because I understand that town highway clerk received a substantial raise in the last 2 years. And to put that in parity for clerk position highway, clerk position court, I'm not going to be the person that says whose job is more what. That's not my position. My position is in being fair to all town employees. I understand there's union contracts that are involved, but our two ladies here do not belong to the union here. And that token, and as far as being supportive of both of our clerks, we would think it would be fair to have something along the same lines as what other clerks within the town would be receiving as raises also. I think that, and considering the amount of work that both ladies do on a consistent basis for the town.
Understood. And I wish that we could do more for everybody. I truly do. And, in all due respect, I feel like the board has looked at all the jobs individually and the history and what everybody does. Although we don't know every single aspect of every person's job, I think we've done our best to do what we possibly can to understand those positions. And we all know that it's an economy that is extremely tough to live in. But keep in mind, we are not producing something that we can work off a profit margin that we can adjust the amount of product that we sell or bring in. We're asking the folks in the town to fund these budgets, and we have to do our due diligence to the best we possibly can. and utilize that money the best we can. It's no disrespect to any one of the employees if we can't pay certain amounts based on the obligations and the economy and everything. We're trying to do the best we can. And again, I mean, I'd feel more comfortable at a 6% increase than the 3%, and I feel like at least we're heading in the right direction.
I'm sorry. In regards to, and I'm not trying to compare apples and oranges. I'm just comparing numbers, and it's specifically that with the highway clerk received a $3 an hour raise for this year, and now will be receiving a $2 raise, which is a 10% increase for the salary that she'll be making next year. I think it should be fair that across the board that both of our clerks should be eligible for the same raise. And since the clerk last year received 3% on top of a $17 an hour raise, that makes compounded, you're looking at almost a 33% raise in a period of 3 years.
Understood. Gentlemen?
I acknowledge Mr. Ashdown's research and math with, the increases that we did on the highway department clerk. The acknowledgement of the $3 increase, I think it was from 17 and change to where she was last year, was, to my knowledge, she hadn't had such a substantial increase in quite some time prior to that, other than maybe what we would call these
stipend
COLA. I don't know. Stipends, yes. So to your point, I do agree that the times have changed across the board, and we have a lot of catching up to do, I think, in terms of what we pay as going rate for many of our employees. However, it's, I think, a very tough curve to sell in one single year to play catch up. Admittedly, I am acknowledging that there needs to be further discussion to make it right, but I do feel that being aggressive with some of these increases and at least acknowledging going forward that there needs to be conversation to make it more to the current environment, I think we need to continue that. So in terms of percentage, I would still stay with the 6 at the time. If just quick math, if we leave it at that, it's still about a $4,300 difference in from the 12.8 down to.
Well, 6% raise. If I did it right, you should check it too, Steve. I think is like $1.15.
That's what I got.
Yes, $1.15.
And for the year, that would be $23.92 for each clerk.
Approximately, yes.
So would it be a fair request to ask for the clerks to at least receive the same raise that the highway clerks receiving? She was making more on an hourly rate than our 2 clerks, and she's receiving a 10% raise, $2 an hour. And I would ask for the same thing for our clerks.
I understand your request, but also I have to say that they do different jobs. There's different responsibilities, different things that they are in fact doing, and not to diminish anybody's job. And I understand what you're saying, but from 3% to 6%, that's double what we're doing generally across the board. And again, I want to pay people for what they're doing. To me, that's the tool. That's what we have to do. But that's a very big jump. One of the things that we did back in January is we started increasing the fees that were way out of line. I felt the rest of the board felt the same way, that a lot of the fees were antiquated, and we've done that. But we don't know what those trends are going to be through this summer. We haven't even given it basically a year to understand where we stand financially.
The fees only changed this month.
Some of the fees changed in October 1st. Some of the fees changed back, I believe, April.
Yep.
But we don't have a history yet that we can actually base the budgeting in the future where it's going to go. And I feel that this is definitely a step in the right direction, that we are recognizing that 3% is good, but doubling that at 6% is better, and I think that that's a good faith effort to get things more in line to where they should be. Next year, looking back at the revenues, looking at the trends, looking at what's happening, it's a bad analogy to say maybe it'll be better next year. I don't want to hear that myself, but the reality is this is the economy we're faced with too.
But
We have a
also,
lot of increases all across the board. We're looking at right off the bat with our tentative budget of a 16.88% increase. That is incredible. 16.7% increase. When we first looked at this budget, it was upwards of 36 or 38%. And before we presented this tentative budget, thankfully, everybody in all the departments worked diligently and brought it down to that. And what we're trying to do is get that down even lower. I will tell you this, that the budget for different fire districts in the town is going to be different on folks, affect people differently. Our library districts, I think we only have Plattekill and I believe New Paltz. I think those are the only two. Marlboro might be in a very small section. But folks' taxes are going to go up. We just had the school taxes come out this year. And although I haven't sat in this office, for the last 10 years, I've been here at the town hall and I've understood and, heard the stories about folks coming in. And I'm sure our town clerk can attest to the amount of people that came in very dissatisfied about the increase in the school taxes. So we're very aware and we understand that, groceries, gas, the cost of living, everything is skyrocketed. So I feel like we're taking the appropriate steps to increase our fees, to increase our revenues, to look at our revenues and look at them realistically to fund situations like this. I want the employees to want to stay here. I want the employees to be happy here. I want the employees to be able to feed their families here. I wish there was a magic wand that we could say, everybody across the board X amount. But our hands are really, they're tied very much so. We're not looking at just one person or one family. We're looking at the community as a whole as being one large family.
And I understand that. I just, again, I don't need to know the inside of anything. It's just the parity that you mentioned before for Anna Marie and I. If we didn't want to take anything more than that, it would be hard to find people qualified to do the position. You mentioned that.
Understood.
And again, with my statistics that are accurate in regards to other towns as far as what they make for their clerks, if you were going to advertise for a position at the rate they make today, I would believe it would be very hard pressed for an application to be received for the town. Very hard pressed. The amount of training it takes to get one of these clerks up to speed is going to be at least 6 months to a year before they're even remotely comfortable.
Understood.
And again, the issue in regards to one clerk receiving 30% raise in a period of 2 years, and I'm just asking for the same raise for our two clerks that the highway clerk is making for this year, which I would think would be more fair and more accurate. And I'll offer this. I'll pass on my raise, and I'm going to guess Judge Macioso will also pass on her raise for this year if we could take that and incorporate that to the two clerks that we have. We feel that strong.
That would be
Understood.
good. Yeah, I agree.
And I would rather pass on my raise. I'd rather pass it during my term on any raise, provided that they can be compensated fairly for the hours and to be fair across for all town employees to receive the same thing, which I think would bring things up somewhat to a par level or a parity, if you will.
Understood. Gentlemen?
well, the only thing I would like to say, and it's not anything against anyone, but I'm like, how many years? That's the problem. We're trying to catch up. How many years where this has been a little screwed, I would say, not screwed, whatever, out of whack. And it's like, it's very tough to bring it up in a year.
I think the point as well would be that it really wouldn't even be bringing it up. It would just be making it to a point of, greater equity. It would be recognizing the disparate equity. I can appreciate that the decisions are very hard to make all across the board. And, I'm hopeful that the board also recognizes that Judge Ashdown is, presenting, I think, very strongly our position that, we feel that our clerks are not being adequately compensated, and so for this we want to really impress how important we believe it is to make a change for them this year that's of a significant nature.
Understood. Do you have Town of Shawano available?
I do not.
I did basically the same thing the board did as you did, reaching out, looking at other towns and municipalities, and I spent some time looking at other municipalities' budgets. And the town of Shawano, which is probably more, I would say, probably more on the playing field or level as far as industry and what have you, to a degree, as Plattekill. And they actually paid two different, they started off in 1911, and I believe it was 124, and then they did increase that to 1961 in July of 24. So that being said, again, the thing that they have in their budgets that's really tough for us, and it's no fault of our employees or anybody who's here, is they do have a revenue stream that is their water and sewer district. And that is something that we don't have. So the revenue side is higher. And comparatively speaking, when we look at other communities, we're looking at one number, but there's a lot of things that go into the number that's achieved at that level. There's based on the revenues from the budget and what they're the ability to pay. So we felt in the beginning that the 3% was somewhat an ability to pay, and in some instances it was tight. So in looking at doubling that, we feel collectively, and anybody else can speak if they do not, I don't want to speak for anybody here, but we felt like that was a number that would be a respectable number that we could work with and still move on. And again, I don't want to give anybody false hopes, snow job them or whatever, but again, we do not know what the revenues are going to look like next year. We just don't know. The hope is and the anticipation is that we're going to be sitting in a better position. I will say that, again, October 1st, it's not comparing, but it is a reality. October 1st, we raised our transfer station fees. When we raised our transfer station fees, we felt pretty good about that. But all those fees are now going up again on the town. So the thing is, did we raise them accordingly? I believe we did. Is it outpacing us, the increase in those fees? I believe it is. But on the same token, if we raise those fees, then the garbage in the town is not going to get to the transfer station. It's going to be on the side of the road. And then we're going to have to pick it up. And there's a real cost that's affected that. So we're trying to do the best balance we can and give the best and most we can and be what we feel is fair. Although it may not seem fair, that's what we feel is fair. And, I don't want to say that we're stuck in a quagmire. I feel like we're willing to double that and go to that 6%. At least I'll speak for myself.
I feel comfortable
6%.
going with the 6% also. And I know it's like when you want to bring parity into it, sometimes things are just the way they are, and we make decisions and then we have to make more. And it sounds like double talk because I don't feel comfortable with the 3. I feel comfortable with the 6. And maybe next year, whatever raise to be catching up to something. But the term catching up, I understand, but each place, each town has different incomes. And I understand when you said about Linda, but right now, we're just looking at this, and this is at 6%. Steve, you were good at 6, you said before?
Yes.
It's definitely much better than 3 because I look, not for nothing, different note. I looked at my Social Security raise, 2.5. I'm not happy, but I can't do nothing about that.
Dean?
I believe
I'll make a motion to give the clerk 6%. You got a second?
Got a motion on the floor to raise the court clerks to at 6%. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor with a second to raise 6%. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried.
I just want to note that I'm just going to express my unhappiness about that it's not fair paying across the board for all employees. I don't understand how. I guess I just don't understand how one clerk can make a 10% raise, a $2 an hour raise, and then yet other clerks in other town positions are not eligible for that for any other purpose than in regards to revenue stream. If it was a revenue stream issue, why wouldn't that employee be offered 6% also? That's just my thoughts. I mean, you already voted, you've already done this, and I just wanted it noted that I disagree, but in the same aspect, I respect your decision.
Understood and duly
I
noted.
have a question.
Wait a minute. Ms. Mazziosa?
Oh, well, I've made my position known, and I think the board has its work to do. And, I certainly respect that, we're all good people here trying to come up with a solution. And so, I respectfully have my position. I think I've made it known, and I've also had the opportunity to hear your vote and the reasons that you have for your vote. So
All right.
I
And
think Dawn wants
just
to
one
say-
moment, Dawn. Sarah, if you will, can you definitely make sure that both comments are documented by the judges?
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So it's accurately noted, all right? And then we can reflect on that again next year as well. All right, Dawn?
This may have absolutely nothing to do with it, but I'm just a little confused why we can spend money to buy unnecessary filing cabinets, but we can't give the employees the raises. Because we don't need new filing cabinets, but we want to spend $60,000 on new filing cabinets, but yet we can't give the increase. If the revenue is such an issue, why are we spending money on unnecessary stuff instead of compensating the employees when we don't need it? I'm just curious.
So first off, let me ask you, clarify. Who said we were spending money on $60,000 worth of filing cabinets?
When you came in the office the other day, you had asked us about cabinets, and you
Yes.
said you could get cabinets for $60,000.
Well, I said there are approximately $900 a cabinet off of Courtcraft, and those are cabinets to actually basically file the documentations, all the paperwork and everything that we have. In walking through the town hall, I think it's cleaned up a little bit better in the last several months, but in walking through the town hall, we can look right back here and we can see filing cabinets all over the place. When I walk into your room, I see filing cabinets all over the place, and it works for you, and I'm okay with that. I walk into the building department and I see filing cabinets all over the place. The same thing with every office. I see people that are cramped. There's no room. I see, cabinets with stuff on the top. I see probably, I'm going to be conservative, and I'm going to guess maybe 10 to 12 different types of filing cabinets, whether they're sizes, front loads, side loads, high, low, what have you, front, back. A plethora of different types of filing cabinets. So to me, make no mistake, and I make no hesitation when I say, I want the best for every single person that works in this town, and I know that everybody busts their butts. I know that. I see that. I've experienced that. I am appreciative of that, and I have to believe that the rest of the board is very appreciative of that. And the intention of purchasing new file cabinets, yes, I have possibly found some money to purchase filing cabinets, and I'm still going to go further to purchase those filing cabinets. That's part of the machine that does, or the cogs on the wheel, if you will, all together that makes the day-to-day operations run more smoothly. So that is why we're looking for filing cabinets. It's the same reason why we vacuum the floors, clean the walls, wash the windows, and any other number of things we do. It's part of the day-to-day operations. Make no mistake, I don't want to balance the budget on the backs of the employees. I refuse to do that. And I do agree and believe fully that people should be compensated accurately and completely for the work that they do. 100%.
So she got her $5 raise in 2 years. So next year we can come back and get kicked back down again. So I just don't think that's
I don't want to say come back next year and
right.
you're going
That's
to
what
get
I'm
X.
saying.
Come back next year, you're not going to get X.
Right.
I'm not going to say that. I'm
Right.
going to say that next year, I am sure the budget's going to be presented again as it was last year, the year before, and so on.
Right.
And it's going to go ahead. You know, honestly, this is probably the toughest thing that I have in front of me in a long time. And I don't mean just here, I mean in my other places of employment. It's tough. You know, I have a relationship with everybody here. I want to keep that a good relationship with everybody here. Everybody works the butt, so I'm not just saying that. I truly believe that.
I know.
And I really honestly believe like we've come ahead in leaps and bounds.
Right. And
We have done our due diligence the best we can to compensate the best we can.
I get
And
that you
everybody's
keep saying
situation is different. I don't want to say people's names. I'll be okay with saying job positions.
Right. I won't
But
say
the
names.
reality is each position that we've looked at, we've tried to do the best we possibly can.
Right, so on
And
each position, she got a 10% raise on both positions. So that's, I mean, do I want to cry? No, but I do want to kick and yell because, I mean, seriously, and I was told not to bring up the past, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. I worked this position, and I worked my butt off for 2 years by myself. Came before the board to try to get compensated. You know what I was told? That's your job to stand up and do that job. I was working 2 judges for almost 2 years by myself, and I never got compensated for it. I stayed because this is a job I love to do. I do this because I love it. I do, and I don't know why, but I do love my job. But it makes it very hard on times like this when you're like, you're really not appreciated.
I have to disagree. You are appreciated.
I don't know. I don't feel it a lot. And I think you were on the board when Judge Murphy supposedly tried to fight for me.
Yes,
and,
I have been on the
so
board for approximately
I don't
10
know.
years.
It's just kind of like you keep getting kicked in the teeth or what?
I'm going to offer something if it can be considered. And if not, you can tell me if it's out of line now, but we're looking at $3,500 difference to make up a $2 an hour raise for both clerks. Anna Marie and I, we pass on our raises. That brings it down to $2,500. Can we go through our equipment line and see what we can whittle it down to so we can help them get to that $2 an hour?
We haven't even looked at the equipment line yet.
Right.
And to do that, we have looked collectively to see where. Believe me, we didn't just say no. We looked at everything, and we have to look at every aspect. So I am sure that there'll be a couple of questions about the equipment line, but we're not looking at the equipment line to fund this line. This line is personnel, and we're trying to do this on the personnel line.
So I'll pass on $2,000 off my salary, and I'll take that, and I'd like to see that transferred to the people. I think that would be more than fair
Don't do that.
to help
Don't
them.
do
Oh no,
that.
absolutely.
I
will,
appreciate
because I know
that,
what you
but
both
don't
do,
do that.
and I feel that strongly about it. I'm going to do that. And
Well, I appreciate your offer. I really, truly do. But I don't believe that we can do that. I really don't.
We can't because, again, the next budget coming in, they're going to want to do the same thing. And we can't do it. We're going to have to hold the line. And the hold the line it's at 6%. And no matter if you give money back or not, no, we're not even considering that. It's 6%, and we're going to move on. Thank you.
All right?
Just for the record, I would join you in that as well. Yeah.
All right. So let's do the math on this, gentlemen. first line justice court, town justice, it would be for the 2024 was 46. The new proposed budget would be 47. 47,000, I should say. And let's do the math on the increase with the 6%. What do we got?
84, 531.2.
That's your total, correct?
Yes.
84.
531.2.
Did you guys discuss the court officers?
Not yet.
Who said that?
Tiffany.
Oh. Sorry, I had my head down. Okay. So that is the next line. The next line is going to be the court officers. We currently have 4 court officers, and they are turning 22 hours totally. Current hourly salary is $21.64. Work proposed is 22 hours, and proposed hourly rate is 22.24. That is per contract at 2.75. And those court officers across, the total budget was $24,756.16 for 2024, and the proposed request is $25,442.56.
You got the way it is, right?
That's by contract.
Okay.
Question to verify that. That's per contract. That cannot increase, correct? Until that's ratified?
If you're giving them contract, none of our court officers are currently in the union.
Okay,
But if you
the
have to give
position.
them a raise based on the position. So technically, they should not
we
be
go
getting a
back.
raise right
Yeah,
now
sunsets.
until that's ratified.
Yep, and that's called sunset. So they would or would not receive that 2.75 at this time. No, so they cannot. So in other words, what we're talking about, if it's sunsets, it would continue on, but that contract
They would
is
get
actually,
retro to whatever you guys ratify to.
Do you understand it, Judge Matzkelson?
I think what I'm hearing is that the change can't be made at this time.
Yes, because what happens is that's a negotiation. So the last number, as per contract, actually was for the year 2024. That was a 2.75. So since they're in negotiations, what happens is that'll stay at that raise. The salary will remain at that $22. No, excuse me. It will remain at $21.64 until the contract is ratified. At the time the contract's ratified, through the negotiation stages, the retroactive pay of whatever the increase would be paid at that time. So that line will actually stay for the 4 court officers at 22 hours total. It's going to stay at the current rate of $21.64 per hour. And that total for that line is going to be $24,756.16.
Is there a contract end? Is it the end of this year?
Yes.
Okay.
And in negotiations with that right now as we speak. That will start, I believe, over the next week or 2. Okay, so clerk to justice, and we have total personnel line. Let's do the math on those 3 numbers, folks. What did we have?
156,287.36.
156. 28756.
Yes, 287.36. 156,287.36.
Okay. Under equipment, there is 0. And the next page, code 11110, 4.4 contractual. Language line. And we'll go line to line. The language line, the cost in 2024, the budget was for $150, and the proposed budget for 2025 remains at $150. Transcriptions, and the budget for 2024 is $125, and the request is $350 for 2025. Keep in mind that year to date, and that's September?
I just got a new one from Tiffany for October, and we're still at the 346.50.
Okay, so we're at 346.50. So keep in mind that it did go up. Was there something unusual that happened this year, or?
We had a transcription for it was a summary proceeding, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and
That was
all it
recently, right?
takes is, all it takes is one, and
Yep. Okay, gentlemen, do you understand? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, interpreter. The interpreter is $500. Now, keep in mind, 23. I don't see any monies that was spent or requested on that. I don't know what was requested, but I see there's nothing spent. And then year to date is 0, and the request is for $500. So, what is the justification on not lowering that?
I believe that, the idea there remains that in the event that we need to have an interpreter for a situation where the county is not going to be required to pay for the interpreter, that we should have at least $500 in place.
And that would be utilized in particular if we had a trial where you cannot use the language line.
Correct.
You would have to have somebody in person to do the interpretation. So that's where that money would be. It's there if we needed it, but there's times this year I have not had any trials that required an interpreter this year. But the possibility of that with the Spanish-speaking community that we live in there's always that possibility.
So we budgeted that in 2024. We did not spend anything in 2024 up to this date, and the request is for $500. But just my opinion, the reality is not only do we have a very large Spanish-speaking community that is in our neighborhood and our locale, but we also have a lot now of new folks that have immigrated to our area or potentially on the thruway. So the potential is to spend for an interpreter probably pretty positive.
And they probably get paid by the hour,
So,
correct?
yes, they do. And
so-
if I could just give some context, Dawn has the figure from 2022 where we needed a sign language interpreter for a civil trial. And so the amount that was spent was $310, and that was just one use. And so that's where the county would not be picking up the cost of the interpreter. And so that would be the example of one use.
So we should ask you where it is, right?
Yep. All right, so I'm good with that if you guys are good with that. So we also have the next line would be court stenographer. There was 0 expenditures in 23. The request for 24 was $1,250. So far, there was no, to the best of my knowledge, that there was no stenographer request during that, and the additional, the request for 2025 is for $1,250.
Again, a single jury trial would
same
put us,
scenario.
You have to have it
into
there.
the same
Did you just not
situation.
have a trial, or you have something else?
that was a summary proceeding trial.
Okay.
It's not a,
Is there any chance that they would ask for transcripts of that, or no?
Certainly, they could ask for transcripts, but transcripts could be generated from the digital recorder. The stenographer would be necessary if we had a jury trial, because then the jury might request a readback, and so that's why we would have to have the stenographer here in person to be able to deal with a jury trial.
All right, gentlemen, your opinions?
I think it should stay there.
It's an insurance policy.
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, next request is for a special prosecutor. Special prosecutor is the expenditures for 2023 is $1567.50. The budget request for 24 was $20, and year to date $6693.75 has been expended. The request for 2025 is $20,000.
Is it just because of delayed billing? Is that why they
I was
have?
going to say, is that up to date?
More accurate, up to date would be 8,557.50 is what Dawn is showing me for the special
So-
prosecutor.
And we still have a couple more.
This is up to when?
You got it.
This is, Tiffany gave me this on October 7th, but depending, probably that would be through September vouchers, probably.
No, for the October meeting, the first October.
Okay,
Okay, so
But
that
it
being
looks like
said,
the last time they billed was August.
yes.
Yeah, so.
We bring it down to 15.
I would even say 16.
All right, 16. What do you think?
Well, first off, before we pull the board, what do you folks think about bringing that down to 16?
In 2023, it was 15,000. That was 2
Yeah.
years ago. I don't think that's a good idea.
No.
I don't either, because
How many more
his
times this
rates,
year are we
his,
gonna
his rates can
utilize?
go up. I have 2 times a month for the next 3 months until those gone, and next year his rates can go up.
So he's going to be here
He
approximately.
also does pre-offers by mail, which we get billed for, because people
Yes.
who live over a distance from the court out of state, that all gets billed from him as well.
Yes, it does.
These vouchers are only through August, what did we just see?
August 1st.
August, the middle of August here, this 8,000. So that's, you've got all of
Back to
September,
the-
October, November, December.
I should actually reach out to him because I haven't received a bill from him.
Correct.
No, I am a strong believer in a special prosecutor. So we'll leave it at 20.
Leave it at 20.
I think you're good there.
Leave that one at 20. Uniform allowance for the 4 court officers and budget request in 24 was $350, and that remains the same. In 25, the request is $350. I'm good. You guys speak up. Let me know.
But they spent $380.
380.49.
And the request was for $350. So I don't know how long ago they've gotten their materials, but maybe the anticipation is that they don't need the same amount of stuff next year. I don't know.
We have ample court officers, and they just got all new.
Well, we got away from the more expensive shirts,
No.
the dress shirts, and went to a embroidered polo, which are number one. It's great for those guys; they love it, and it still looks professional. And I mean, they're less than half the price of the dress shirts.
Okay. So we
And you have a full staff now too, right? Everybody's pretty much
Yeah, we're up to snuff.
good. Okay, reference books and updates. The request for 24 was $500, and increased that by $200 to $700. And given the fact that if you look at that 27, or excuse me, the
677.24 there, right there.
Yep. So I'm okay with that. And again, stop me if you guys have any questions. Supplies, envelopes, laser labels, legal pads, ink. The request for 24 was $4,000, and that's the same request for 25, $4,000.
Did you like a fall or fourth quarter order? Is that what we do usually?
We just did another one, and in October, we are up to, well, I didn't add any other stuff because that's the 1,700, but a lot of this stuff in the Elon
Okay.
is, in our expenditure report, is office supply stuff.
Okay, good with that, 4,000. And the next line is going to be meals / transportation / mileage. And the request in 24 was $2,000. It's been $804.39 spent so far year to date. And the proposed budget request is the same as it was for 24 at $2,000.
Yeah, so when they go for training and whatnot.
Training, banks,
Okay.
whatever. Okay, and we have here the New York State Association mandatory training 4 at $1,000, and the 24 budget request was $4,000, and year to date is only $1,156.66, and the request again is for $4,000. So we have 4 that go. Does 4 go every year?
Well, the reality is I don't think I have put in for reimbursements on this line I don't remember when, but I want to make clear the reason that we have the request is that in the event that one of the judges would need to be replaced, the new person who would come in would have to go, and then that expenditure, would need to be there, so it would become a reality. The training is available online, and essentially I have been doing the training online. So I have not been going to any on-site training. They have excellent on-site training too, which is, I think great and probably in a lot of ways important. But I think that the necessity for this line is essentially, again, the insurance policy, that in the event that people need to be replaced or retrained, or if you need to bring on a new clerk, training for clerks is mandatory. So, that's going to be impacted. And I think that the away training would be very important for a new person coming on. But I think Judge Ashdown could probably speak to that.
Yeah, that's when I came on board. I took that 1 week class, plus I took a lot of on-site training last year. And this year, when I did my training, like Judge Maciosa did this year, I think I did all my training online. It was in January, February, March, I think I banged all mine out, the required trainings. And unfortunately, I was not able to attend this year's New York State Magistrates Association meeting in Niagara Falls due to a scheduling conflict with other activity that I do. But that's not a required conference. As much as I wanted to go, I had to wait it out, and unfortunately, I was unable to attend that this year. I agree with Judge Maciosa. If something was to happen to one of the four of us, and that training would need to be done expeditiously, then again, it's the insurance policy, as Judge Maciosa stated, it would be there for somebody coming on board. God forbid if something happened in midterm to one of us or one of the clerks needs to be replaced.
So let me just say this is something that I do remember from years past and the trends on that budget. And I'm just thinking, going and looking at all the lines and putting everything together, I totally understand the value of going and actually physically being in that training. That's how I learn. I can't do things online like I used to. I prefer to be face to face. I do understand that aspect of it. What's the opportunity of trimming that by $1,000 if it's mandatory and something happens? I understand the insurance policy and it makes sense to a degree, but in saving dollars, if we were to trim that to $3,000, we're not going to stop anybody from having mandatory training. We're still going to supply that. Do you find issue with that?
Well, I didn't go this year for personal reasons. I had family issues. But that is literally what's spent year to date is just Maureen. So
just my training.
Correct. If I
went for that too, right?
Correct. If I went, then you would at least have $2,500, and that will probably go up as well next year. And I intend on going next year. For the same reason, it's a little.
Is that always at the end of the year, or like
no? It's in September and October.
Late summer, early fall.
Yeah.
All right.
They used to have one in February, but down.
Yeah, I'm doing one in New York City.
It's going up a couple hundred each year.
Well, it depends on where they're having it. Like Niagara Falls was cheaper. Next year's Albany is going to be a little more expensive, and then the year after that, it's going to be another place that's going to be a little more expensive. So we try to get it to the cheapest place possible because we do know how it's really important for the court clerks to go and do their training and be hands-on. So each year it's different. We can't say, okay, it's going to be $1,000 every year because it's not $1,000 every year.
I mean, I would be comfortable saying $3,500 instead of $4,000. Judge Maciosa, I don't know what your position.
Yeah,
we're not going to not pay it if that happens.
Sure,
God
somebody
forbid,
had
for
to.
whatever
Yeah.
happens.
But I mean, I would think 35 would be a fair number in my book.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, 35.
If it's good with them.
You're on the board, correct?
I am no longer on the board.
Oh, okay. But I know you were, right?
I was
Most recently.
on the board, yes.
Statewide, that is, right?
Yes, statewide.
Okay, we have the New York State Association of Fingerprinting, not every year. What is that?
Well, we took it out last year and then we ended up not realizing that one of our court officers had to go get fingerprinted in order to do the.
Okay, so we're paying for the service. It sounds almost like it's an organization.
No, it's-
No.
I
It's
just
to
didn't
be like when I became a clerk. In order for me to get the rap sheets or do anything like
Yeah.
that, we have to be fingerprinted.
All the background checks.
Correct. So we had one of our court officers who needed to do fingerprinting because she didn't have any law enforcement
Yeah.
where she wasn't fingerprinted for this. So in order to be registered in New York State, she had to go and get fingerprinted. So we had to, that's why it's on the line this year.
Okay, you didn't request anything, so you're good there, right?
No, we're good.
Yeah, I don't-
Yeah, we're good. I mean,
Okay.
we're set. I don't think anything.
So we have the New York State Magistrate Association 2 at $115. That's $230, but the request is for $310.
Because it's gone up.
Well, because the figures are based on salaries as the town justice, and then next year that would put us up to the next level.
Okay, so you guys checked it. You know it's going to be $310.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, the next one is the New York State Magistrate Association of Court Clerks, 2 at $75. And that is a total of $150 is the request. Last year it was $120, and I assume that went up also, correct? Okay, so we have Magistrate Association 2 at $75 and $150. Last year was $150, so leave that the same. We have the Ulster, I believe it would be Ulster County Court Clerks Association, 2 at $30, and again, it's $60 was year to date, and the request proposed budget is $100, so that I assume went up $40.
It's supposed to be going up to 50, but we haven't. That's the Ulster County. That's within our county. They have not officially done it, but because it was 100 last year, they had talked about it going to 50 at our meetings. We left it at 100 this year.
Okay, so we budgeted last year at 100 and this year at 100.
Correct.
So, I mean, I think that's more than fair. Does anybody else has any other questions? Okay, and we have the court security training and licensing. $2,000 was the request for last year, and they spent $1,004.57. And the request proposed budget this year for 25 is $2,000. And is that it at the $1,457, or is there an anticipation of that being more?
It depends on what officer needs their training. Some of them, like Anthony, doesn't need training because he's still a peace officer, but the other 3 may need their training. So this year, only 1 person needed training.
Actually,
Right.
Anthony upped his. There's a voucher in there for Anthony.
Oh, did
This
he?
was Anthony.
So this number is going to change.
This was Anthony and Janet. Correct.
Is that an annual or is that semi-annual?
I have no idea how often they have to do it. Anthony, I think it's every 2
So
years.
if it's security guard, it would be every 2 years. If that's the license that they're keeping. But there's other trainings that they're also eligible and they're capable of taking if they choose to do so. It's not mandatory. But however, if they decided to do additional training, I would never shun away from that.
Okay, so I feel comfortable leaving that at $2,000. And we have the post office box fee, 2 at $170. And the request last year to date, we spent $170. 24 was budgeted at $332, and the request is for $340.
Because that 170 is only for 1 PO box.
Yes, yep, so it's times 2.
Yep.
Okay, records purge and shredding. Last year's request for the records purge and shredding was $378, and this year is $395.
Wait,
Oh, I'm sorry, $790. I'm sorry. Yeah, I read the wrong one. I've got my glasses on. I still can't see.
$780.
Yeah, $700 even, and last year's request was $780. Okay, so
No, Dean, they're both 780.
that's what I said.
No, you said 700.
I'm sorry.
780.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
780 for 24 and 780 for 25. Okay, we're good with that. Samsung copier service contracts, all state, and that is the budget request for 2024 was $378, and the request for 25 is $395. Good. And Vector Service Contract. This was, the request last year out of the budget was for $502, and the request this year is $502.
We have a contract with them until 26.
Till 26?
And I would say you cut that close enough. There's not much we could do with that spare change.
Okay, you guys do the math on down the board here.
So we only adjusted 500 off of the mandatory training, correct?
Yes, correct.
And did you see the IT services was a new category that we had added? You have that?
200 at the bottom.
Correct.
Okay, so that 200, that IT services through,
It was when they had to come in, I had to get the new computer.
No, it's through the town. We use your IT guy, but we have to pay him when he comes in to do our services. It's your IT guy.
okay, that's what I thought, our IT guy.
Correct. I had to go up to
State owns all
Windows
the
11 or
computers and all
something, and they had to come in. There was something wrong with the wiring, or you're talking stuff that's out of my understanding. But they had to get everything for this computer. And my
Because we've never had that before.
No,
Correct. I had to add that in.
$90. So those are actually state computers.
Correct.
So our service guy serviced the state computer.
He had not the computers. It was the wiring to the internet for them to be updated. So he.
So
Let me
it was,
explain
it
it a little
was
bit.
our
Explain
IT
that.
that was connected to your computer.
Yes, it's the town's IT person. It doesn't matter
194.
who he is employed under, but because he is an IT guy, we need an IT guy. So I called our people and they said that we could use your IT guy. We would have to pay him out of our budget, and it would be under our service with him.
And you base that on what you.
Correct.
Okay. So you understand that, guys? The IT service?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And you did a new number there?
So the net at the bottom?
Yes.
37,727 even. And then total department was 194,014.36.
194.
You had 191.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I inverted two numbers.
Yeah, 194.
Yep.
Yeah.
014.
014. Yep, gotcha.
You don't have to worry about the
I cheated and I didn't do cheat well.
No, I inverted these two numbers.
Two numbers.
Oh,
And then I gave her the
that's what you
wrong
get.
answer.
That's what I get is right.
Okay.
What'd you say?
This one here.
That's 194, 14, 36.
Justice.
01432. Yep, that's what I got.
And that one is 84.
I believe that is it.
531.
So what is the percentage of increase that is represented now by this budget?
Oh my God. Percentage of increase from 2024. You figure that, Steve?
Yeah, I'll do it real quick. Which was 24? Was this
24?
No, 2024. I got it right here for you. That was 24.
87 minus what was the 187 again?
Oh, yeah.
It's like 3 point something percent, maybe 3.3.
Sorry.
187,970.56.
I got 3.3.
I'm going to yield to you in a second. 3.2.
3.2 even.
3.2 or 3.
Who rounded off?
I rounded down. He rounded up.
Okay.
Depends on what that last number is. Is that a
It
5?
was at a 1. It was a 1. But he's listening. Clear in the forest.
And that's why when you retire, I retire. Well, actually, I just lied to you.
Hold on, don't say
I just lied to you.
Who survived?
I am on a 4-year plan.
There's no lie detector.
So you got 16 years then.
No. I'm on a 4-year plan. I'm out of New
I
York.
thought maybe you wanted to hit 20 years.
All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you.
I'm too old for that. I'm already 60. I'm ready to retire. I think I